So I had a chance the other night to sit down with Dean Hall of DayZ fame, as well as the founder of Rocketwerkz, creating a new game called Icarus that I've covered in the past on the channel. Icarus is a session-based PvE survival game for up to 8 co-op players or solo. The game is currently set to launch on August 12th, according to their Steam page. And a lot of the conversation surrounding Icarus is the fact that Dean Hall, because he left, or what some people say abandoned, DayZ standalone back in 2014, that they are very uncertain of the future of a game like Icarus, being that it's being made by the same guy. I had an open and honest conversation with him. We tried to play some of Icarus. We actually ran into a couple of bugs. I'm not cutting out anything from that conversation. It's going to start from as soon as he jumped into the Discord call with me to the moment he left. And I'm going to have timestamps for every single question that I got to ask, as well as some conversations that we had on other topics that I actually didn't plan for. I thought it was a very open conversation, and I asked him some pretty hard questions in regards to his past with DayZ, as well as the future of Icarus, and I asked him to actually respond to some of the criticisms that a lot of you guys have laid out, as well as myself have laid out in the past. I don't really do a lot of interviews, so this was something a little bit brand new to me. But the gameplay session, as well as the conversation, went on for about an hour and a half now, so it's basically a podcast at this point. If you guys like the video, leave a like on it, subscribe for more. I'm excited for Icarus. I got a chance to play around with it before. Obviously, we ran into some bugs, and you guys are going to get a little bit of insight into how Dean Hall kind of looks at game development and some of the stuff that he's learned from DayZ standalone. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. My name is Bigfry, and I'll see you on the next one.
I'm actually downloading the beta on my PC now, so we've got a little bit of time to just talk,
Awesome.
which actually is kind of better for me because I found it really hard to talk and play the game at the same time.
Yeah, no, I feel that for sure.
You're totally fine to record all this too. I'm sure someone's told you that.
Yeah, Lori told me that I could record. I had started recording just before, just to make sure all my levels
Awesome.
are right. So.
That's correct.
Cool.
I'm actually a huge fan. And what's really funny is, so I watch all your videos, but you know how weird YouTube's algorithm is?
Yeah.
One of the videos I missed was your Icarus video.
Oh, awesome.
Because I'd been watching all the Earth 2 stuff, and I'd seen your past stuff. Because you're sort of into a lot of the kind of games that I am.
Sure.
So, and I don't get a lot of time to play as many games as I want, because I'm often making them. So people like yourself or Sid Alpha, are creators that I follow.
Yeah, I love Sid
And
Alpha.
I love those, like Death of a Game, and I love those really detailed deep dives. And actually, I often say to people who are messaging me about getting into game development or that, I'm like, go do those deep dives, because it's so easy to upset a player base without even being like a bad dev.
Right.
So you really have to go through and be very careful. And you can even see this with Icarus. So originally, we hadn't planned on publishing this ourselves. Before COVID and all that, we'd planned on developing the game and working with a publisher, for good reason. It's very complicated to message a game, to price a game, even just putting it on Steam and stuff like that. And I think we've done a pretty good job of getting out there. We've had great wish lists, our Discord is really good, but that's a testament to how hard the team's working, and we sort of stumble sometimes. A great example would be we were developing our infographics to say, this is the deluxe edition of the game, and we said the deluxe edition comes with these 2 outposts, but of course we forgot that we weren't saying that, you actually get an outpost with the base game.
Right.
So, that, and that's just an example that's so easy to fall into these little traps. So we thought, we're being good by, we don't want the infographic explaining the differences to be too complicated, but that can actually end up being a bad thing. So I really enjoy these kind of deep dives, and I hope, and you talking with me, and stuff like that. None of this is predicated on you just talking positively. I thought your video on Icarus was really good because it was like, hey, there's some cool and interesting stuff we're doing, but here's some things that are a concern, or that we should watch. And I just think that's a super healthy thing.
Oh, for sure. And like a game like this is something that like I've wanted for a long time, something set in a sci-fi universe like this. When I first saw the first cohort trailer you guys released, Interstellar vibes automatically. So I was like, this is something to watch, you know.
Well, and Interstellar is one of the couple of couple of movies that make me cry. So
Right.
I love Interstellar. What I would say is, you know, and you'll see this going in, you know, there's heap more that we would have wanted to do, but there's been a lot of restraint as we've gone in, and that's extremely deliberate, because my experiences with DayZ standalone from going to the mod is just trying to be really careful about what we choose to do. And that's why people are like, why don't you have crazy aliens and all of this things?
Right.
We do want to get into that, but we really wanted to stick and deliver a good experience at each step. I'd rather people play the game and go, oh, I wish there was a bit more, but at least what was there run really well.
Right.
So that's been challenging, you know, and I guess that's the nature of game development, isn't it?
Sure.
So, you know, there was a billion things we wanted to do and add into the game, but for me, one of the most important things, and it was one of our 5 pillars, was that the game scales really well. So, you know, it handles the experience. I don't want to sort of you know, crap on other people's products, but I'll use our own. So, you know, Stationeers, we've had a lot of problem as we've gone through getting that game to handle scale. As you build your base, you know, the game starts to break down. We're working away at it, but I think we've, with Icarus, tried to start from the start and say, okay, how do we handle this scale? Let's make a game where you can chop down all the trees, where you can mine all the rocks. But obviously that's been a, you know, somewhat complicated process.
Right. I'm definitely excited to jump in. I was just kind of playing around with like the main menu, kind of created a character and looked around at like, you know, the inventory and stuff like that. But I'm definitely keen on jumping in and just kind of feeling the game for myself. I'm actually really excited for this.
I'm almost downloaded.
Cool.
I just, because I'm really into your content, I want to make sure that there is time for you to ask all the awesome questions
For
that
sure.
you do. And I'll preface it as well with, so when we first announced the game sort of properly to the world, all these questions came back.
Yeah.
Now, I remember when this happened with DayZ Standalone, and I remember what my response was. And my response was to feel a little attacked. And you kind of double down a bit. This time it was very different. I remember we sat down and I said to the team, we need to do 2 things. We need offline play, and we need... I was calling them outposts. We need a like endless session mode, and it caused a pretty big, not drama, but you know, it was a major thing for us to deal with, because those were 2 things we hadn't planned on, and in fact we'd actually planned against. So we had to reframe and change tack with the project, but we did, and I think the project's really much better for it. And that's why I encourage people who make games to watch channels like yours, Sid Alpha, and that, because I think by going through and taking real sober assessments of your game, you can make a better game.
Yeah, and I think a lot of time when it comes to like criticism, a lot of people just like to chalk it up to just people being haters. But I mean, I know just for my whole life, I've always wanted games to just be the best they could possibly be. You know, and sometimes, yeah, it's a little bit harsh, a little bit sobering, like you said, but I like to give games a shot and then see them kind of live out their whole potential, because I'm not a game dev myself, but I know how hard you guys fucking work, right? I hope you don't mind if I swear in this or not, but
oh no, I'm
yeah,
the same.
okay.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, some people say if I get this feedback and I can't action it, then I should attack it. And I think that's not true either. I think what you can do is accept the feedback and say yes, and maybe even say, hey, if I was doing the project again, I might do this differently.
Sure.
But that doesn't invalidate the feedback just because the project can't do it. So that happens a lot. So each week we play Icarus, and our design team's called the vision team, because our teams are cross-functional. So the design team's not just designers, so we call it the vision team.
Right.
We sit down in a locked room and sort of gloves are off, and we just tear the game to pieces. And it can get pretty heated, but we come out of there and there might be a bunch of things we're like, oh, well, this thing's terrible. We don't like this in the game. And we might be like, okay, well, we can't change those bits. How do we maybe de-emphasize those and that? So, yeah, I think for me, it's I don't know what Steam's doing. It seems to be just finalizing the last bit of it. So it should be a couple more minutes.
For sure. One thing I did want to ask, coming from DayZ standalone, the zombie survival, everyone says it's so saturated. What was your guys's like I guess largest inspiration? Why the large tonal shift to a sci-fi universe? Was this something you always wanted to make?
Oh, I just love sci-fi, and actually I'll probably hark back to the original, I suppose, genesis of Icarus was when we first demoed DayZ standalone to actual customers at Gamescom. Might have been 2014 or something. And we'd previously demoed the game at E3, but that was just industry people. And you know how people in the industry, everyone's sort of just positive and that kind of stuff. But when we demoed it to the customers, I realized the mistakes that I'd made. I'd got really obsessed with hacking, which is good, right? We should all agree it shouldn't be hackers. But I think in hindsight, and this decision rests purely with me, I should have gone out and pushed for us to do better whitelisting and stuff like that. Have more server management tools and more modding. That at its core, the community was what was the best thing about DayZ Mod.
Yep.
100%. If you think about it, if you look at it, it was the community who run the servers. It was the community who run the databases.
Yeah.
And it was the community who were actually able to police themselves to, control hackers and stuff like that better. By focusing on running everything authoritative on the server, it meant we could do a lot less. Because DayZ Mod's kind of genius was it would get each client to run 100 zombies, which sort of spread the load amongst clients. But yeah, so I feel like I almost sort of wandered off your question a bit.
No,
here.
it's fine.
But yeah, the original genesis was this thought experiment of, hey, what would a game look like if I removed some of the problems? Science fiction setting allows us to approach the game in sort of two ways. We simultaneously get to introduce these kind of magical, cool technologies, but at the same time, we do get to explore being that prospector and showing you sort of familiar stuff. So really, we needed to do both because I felt like there wasn't a connection between my survival experiences that I was having. And that was really what DayZ was at the start, right? DayZ was you have this character and the character stays alive and you can go into different servers. And so Icarus is kind of that extension of the thought of persistence. Rather than making the survival session persistent over a long period of time, why don't we make you and your character's progress persistent, but have the sessions as a little bit more temporary.
Right.
And I suppose that's the experiment. And I can't sit here and tell you that it's going to be huge and amazing. But we'll find out.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I think the idea of persistent characters, I'm seeing it looks like we have a global inventory and a loadout system that's outside of the drops. I think that actually makes people care for their characters more. In theory, that's how I feel. You're bringing stuff back from drops, and now you're able to actually do stuff outside of that game world and upside. What do you call this? Your space station up here where we're kind of floating around?
Yep.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, definitely. But look, I think a lot of it is going to come down to, and you alluded to this very well in your video, how much content can we get in? As we go, I'd really like to talk through as well some of the areas we got wrong, but not in a bad way. When you start out with a project, you think certain things are going to be good about it.
Sure.
And then you discover some of that's not true, but you also discover a bunch of other things along the way that you didn't realize were maybe going to be fun or that. First question is, though, do we want to resume or try resuming a prospect that I previously have been working on, or do you want to start a new one completely from scratch?
You know what? I'll let that kind of be up to you. If you think that there's is there some stuff down on the planet that to show off or stuff like that? Can we actually go in and explore some housing and
what I'm
building?
doing right now is I'm going into that prospect and I'll just have a look.
Okay.
There is one bug I've been told to just double check when I host, because
Sure.
we're playing quite a live version of the game. But yeah, we'll wait and see how this prospect loads, and if there's a problem with it, I'll just make a new one.
Sure.
But while it's loading in, so initially we thought that everything right from the word go was going to focus on mining these exotics, right? So the exotics is what you use to buy stuff that you get to keep between sessions.
Okay.
But it's really complicated to teach people that. You need to know all the other mechanics of the game. And while it is a survival game in that, like, you know, there are sort of challenges with it or whatever. So what we discovered was it's actually really fun to just level up your character and survive. I mean, that was one of our pillars, right? It was like the core survival mechanics should be fun. So that was one part of it. And then, so what we've sort of done is we've teased that out a bit. So we're trying to provide this progression for your character. So that if you imagine your first 10 levels are just going to be focused on, hey, you're learning about Icarus the planet, you're learning about surviving, and you're also formulating who your character is and what they're going to be. I think I might get us to just do the experience from the start, because I feel like you should see the whole.
Sure.
Going in and seeing like a stone building or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think we've got a much gentler progression than we originally thought, and we haven't done a great job of explaining what a session-based survival game is. And so I think we're getting better at doing that. It doesn't mean that it's always going to be a short, sharp drop. It might mean that it's one that's several weeks long.
And that time continues even while you're offline, correct? Like when you
The
say
drop
several weeks,
time
it's,
does.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And that's maybe a little bit contentious, but we felt it was important to have this, you're not sort of able to game the system, I guess. Okay, I will find us one here. Forest biome, Icarus explanation. Icarus explanation here. Exploration. Here we go. So I will just run this up, and then you should.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I'll let you know when you should be able to join. Just give me a second though.
Sure.
I've got a apparently I have to leave it for a little bit. There's a bug where I'll spawn in on top of a mountain, and I apparently have to run to the side of it.
Yeah, that's one thing. Like I've watched a lot of your guys' live streams, and I always see you guys like down on the planet, but I was always so curious about what it looked like when we kind of pulled out and actually extracted. So just being able to kind of run around here has been nice.
Yeah, definitely. We've de-emphasized the station a little bit for now.
Yeah.
That sort of thematically fits with the idea of the first cohort. So
Sure.
You're the people who were there to terraform the planet, and they've just discovered this extremely valuable resource. So you're kind of not, you're not prepared. The stations that were in orbit were not designed for this purpose. And I wanted a game that felt like it was growing with me in it. And I'm not suggesting that we're heading in this trajectory, but that just reminds me of like, Ultima Online and that, where it felt like the game was progressing with us. And I think, I'm not saying that we're going to be that to that level, but I think we at least want a sense of that. And that's the idea behind the chapters. First cohort is about surviving on the planet and stuff like that.
And so when you say chapters, do you kind of mean like the future kind of DLCs that are planned, Dangerous Horizons and New Frontiers? Those are new chapters in this game. Is that kind of what you guys are going for?
Exactly.
Got
yeah.
you. Okay.
Okay, looks like I'm just loading here.
So with this kind of like Earth view with all the different drops, will we be able to see every single person who's actually hosting a game like you are here?
We're trying to make it smart, so there is a button that you can go to bring up a more traditional server browser.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we'll be we'll be a lot more measured with it.
Cool.
Yeah, I should be good. So you should be able to join my session.
Okay. Let's see here. So
it'll be Rocket 2 Guns.
Yeah. Status. Okay. Join prospect. Let's see.
I'm just going to change my field of view. The game settings reset, so I've got to make sure I've got NVIDIA's global illumination. Definitely make sure you've got NVIDIA DLSS turned on if you've got an NVIDIA card.
I believe I do. Let me go to my settings here. Yeah, I do. Perfect. Okay.
Now
where am I here?
When you come in, I get to hear this awesome sonic boom.
I actually died.
I can't wait for. You died coming in?
Yeah, it put me unconscious. I'm in the middle of the sky right now.
Got it. You just have to respawn, and you should respawn. So that was the same bug that I experienced. They did warn me about that.
Gotcha. Okay,
just as we've been moving to our production environment, there's been a few. I think they wanted to make sure they put us on this new build though, because there was some. As we've made changes to the context menu, it kind of broke things.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, I'm dropping in now.
Now, the only potential challenge is we might be at, we're at slightly different locations. So we will have to find each other. I mean, it's kind of good because we've sort of simulated us getting lost.
Yeah.
So, because we've had to respawn, so I'm going to start running north.
Can I see you on the map?
You can see my drop location.
Gotcha.
So if you see, I'm like the next. So if you head north,
okay.
You're going to have to listen out for bears as you're running along. Pick up some, stone rock. I mean, you've seen a lot of the deep streams and that. So as we're running along, we'll basically try and start building at that lake. So of course, normally we wouldn't have to find each other, but this is actually going to be a kind of cool little challenge.
Yeah, I'm just gathering some, what are these ferns right here?
And yeah, as you level up, probably make sure you unlock some stuff, because you're going to want to get a wood bow and stuff like that ready.
Perfect. Okay.
And I'm going to craft, one of the first things to craft is a stone pickaxe for sure. That allows you to mine stone, because picking up stone rocks is a bit of a chore.
Okay, so, okay, yeah, now it's in my one slot. I just need some stone here. Okay. Game's gorgeous, actually.
Yeah, it's, we're super fortunate, like, NVIDIA, we've actually got a formal partnership with NVIDIA. So they actually have engineers who, look at our game and look at their cards, and they come back to us with huge lists of, okay, we're adding this feature, can you do this? And the same with Unreal, actually. Epic have been just fantastic about, we actually give them access to our source control, and they turn around and are like, you should do this, you should do that. And we're like, okay.
That's actually, okay, so I just leveled up. Now let me see here. So if I go tab, that would be my talents. Okay, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.
And that we're not finished. There was a suggestion for us to make a solo tree. So there's 3 broad areas at the moment: survival, construction, and combat, and each of them have 2 to 3 things underneath them.
Got you. Okay. Well, let's go survival first then. And let's try... There, Swift Stalker. Cool.
This is going to sound weird, and I copped a bit of flack for it in the team, but I actually wanted you to feel overwhelmed when you open those things up, because that's what I wanted. I want a survival game where it's like, oh my god, these are all these options I have to grow this character.
Sure.
And this is your first 10 levels are purely focused on character. I still feel like the game is a little fast. You can basically get to level 12 within a couple of hours. I think I'd like us to slow that down just a touch.
Yeah, just me grabbing some bushes and rocks. Like I'm level 2 already. It did feel fast even going right there.
Yeah, it scales a bit because we sort of wanted you to get your first couple of levels so that you sort of know what's happening when you're still very fresh.
Sure.
And you get used to that idea of, oh, I should do this or that.
Okay, so I'm heading
right.
into O12. Let me cut back to N12 here. There's a big mountain in front of me, so.
Oh, yeah, you will be able to get, if you're on the left of it, you'll be able to get through that pass, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm on the right side of it. You want me to go to the left and kind of curve around and...
Oh, no, you can just go to the right side. It's probably easier.
Yeah.
You're actually moving a bit faster than I am. I've gotten very distracted. I'll start hightailing it. This will be good because I haven't actually been into this area that we're heading to.
Oh, what is that? Something... What was that?
Yeah, make sure you have a weapon.
I have an axe.
Hopefully. Oh, no, you make a bow and probably a spear as well. And listen out for bears. Bears are probably going to be just death for us at the moment. Wolves will be okay against.
Okay. So one thing I did want to ask, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to see it at the early levels, but I want to see vehicle gameplay because I'm very curious to see how vehicle handling is in this game.
So it's funny because we did vehicles and then we realized that they sort of break the game at the idea of first cohort. So vehicles will come in later on, and that fits narratively with the idea of, we wanted you to be the first prospectors in the safer areas of the planet, and the pacing is about sort of, slowly moving across the terrain. I think about Satisfactory and games like that, how you move through these kind of evolutions of the gameplay. So initially, the game is going to be about like person logistics.
Gotcha.
And then the idea is later on, once you've leveled up and stuff like that, because there's so much we have to teach you already that we don't want to kind of have to then introduce a whole bunch of complicated vehicle stuff like, moving containers from this truck to the next.
Right.
We wanted it to feel, we want the vehicles to feel quite a lot like Snow Runner or Mud Runner. Not necessarily in terms of the terrain, like getting stuck in mud and stuff, because obviously that's very cool, but not super achievable on this scale. But definitely in terms of the logistics of moving stuff around, forklifts to move this from this to that, and how am I going to get this to this zone. And particularly because of the building mechanics we've done in terms of structural integrity. Like actually, if you drive at the moment a vehicle on a bridge and the bridge can't handle that weight, it actually breaks.
Oh wow.
But we're not going to have vehicle in for the first cohort. We just we want to make sure we do it really well, and oh god, I think I've run up to a cliff here. I haven't run off it, but how do I get down?
Okay, so I gotta go from wood pile to wood bow to stone arrow. Got you. Okay, so then...
you shouldn't need to unlock wood pile. No, you should just be able to
I
go
see. Okay,
there.
yeah. It's moving. Yeah, I'm going up, down. This is actually moving horizontal. Right, okay. So, stone arrow. Okay. So one thing I did want to talk about was your guys' choice to kind of do a full release game outside of early access, because obviously DayZ and I think Stationeers is also early access as well.
Yep.
What made you guys decide to go full release here?
Well, I mean, I get hounded by people about early access
Sure.
stuff, and it always surprises me because people will simultaneously be angry that something's been in early access for a long time, and then angry when people pull the game out of early access. I hope I'm working on Stationeers for the next decade, or this game. Like, for me, as long as progress is being made, and with Stationeers, we have done an update at least every month for 3 years, and I mean sizable updates. So for me, I think what we want to deliver with Icarus is a polished experience that's very targeted, and we can avoid early access by saying things like, right, okay, we're going to focus the game on doing this piece, and then we'll bring in, say, vehicles or something later on. And that's sort of been our approach, which I think is working really well for us.
Yeah, no, I'll be honest. One of my questions was about the performance. I'm kind of running around here, and I'm actually really impressed.
We've really only just been getting started. So if there's even a little stutter, our tech lead, Ben Carnell, who literally wrote a book on Unreal Engine game development, maybe that's something that breaks my heart a lot when people are like, a Dean Hall game or whatever. They don't realize that there's 70 people working on this game.
Sure.
Many of the team came from Path of Exile, so Grinding Gear Games, who made Path of Exile. That Martin, our programmer who did the work on the vehicles, he'd worked on Need for Speed for like ages. So extremely talented team, and I'm sort of fortunate that having made DayZ, I got enough funding to be able to make a game like this.
Sure. That is actually one of the questions I did want to get to a little bit later, but I feel like now might be a good spot for those people who do criticize you for DayZ and early access and all of that stuff in your past. How do you respond to stuff like that? How do you guys deal with that?
Well, I think a lot of the criticism is valid, or at least at its heart. I suppose where it gets maybe, and I'll say only really annoying. I mean, as when people don't realize that the whole idea of criticism or feedback is that you can address it. So you can totally say, hey, Dean made these decisions that were bad with DayZ. Is he making those same mistakes with his next project?
Sure.
Or is he making new ones? I mean, the weird one for me is, he left the project. I mean, I was only employed by the project. I can't work on DayZ any more than you can. And so, I didn't really have much of a choice there. I couldn't even stay in the Czech Republic. I would have had to get a long-term visa and stuff like that, which is not easy. And I didn't speak the language, and I was literally on the other side of the world. But I would say in terms of feedback, I think to do what I do, to make the games I want to make, I have to listen. I don't necessarily have to action everything, but I think sometimes the things that hurt the most are the things that might be a little bit true. So I often sort of reflect on that stuff.
Sure. No, I mean, honestly, that's a great answer.
I don't make any apology. One thing I don't make any apology for is for Stationeers taking as long as it needs to be a great game.
Sure.
I'm extremely fond of it. And our running a studio has been tough, especially in the pandemic. But I'm really proud of what we're doing with Icarus. But what we'll do is we will assess where the game's at, as you can see, and as we go forward, we make decisions. We won't rush it out, and we just talk a lot with the community about where it's at and going into beta and stuff like that.
Well, that is one thing that I did see just kind of watching back through all the content is I think you've said on multiple occasions, like if it's not ready, you guys will delay it, right? It's not ready, so I definitely do respect that. I feel like just watching, I feel like you have learned a lot from that experience with DayZ, and I kind of wanted to get your insight on like what you've kind of brought forward out of that experience with Bohemia, kind of running your own studio now.
So, I think a great example of it would be how I reacted to some people's feedback with the standalone particularly. versus with Icarus. So the feedback we got when we announced was, we want to be able to do some permanent drops.
Sure.
And I'm like, well, that's not at the heart of it,
Right.
you know. But I think we took that on board and said, hey, we need to do this. And Outpost is kind of one way of us looking at that, and there's plenty of others as well. While I remember, I'm in November 10 at the moment at that lake. I'm on the western side of it.
November 10. Okay.
10.
Can I move around this map, or is it just a stationary zoom?
If you right click.
There we go. Okay, November 10. Okay, I'm just in 011 here. I'm just kind of making my way. I found a copper ore here. I'll be up there in 1 second.
Got it. I'll start building us a little shack, because
Cool.
we'll probably get a storm soon.
You said we'll probably get a spawn soon, or what was that?
A storm.
Oh, a storm. Oh, yes, that's what I want to see.
Yeah, they're quite destructive.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of changes to them, so that's something we've been having to balance heaps. I would almost bet money that the Valheim devs had storms damage your buildings initially, but basically removed that. Something weird is up with the animations for the axe. I don't know if you find those weird. I find them weird. Do you ever talk about?
I haven't noticed much.
Yeah, no, maybe this is the problem. So I always see all the
Right.
problems.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're in this, you know, however many hours a day. I'm sure you're picking up everything.
You know, I actually try and ration my playtime, because the problem is you stop playing it, and this is why the community is super important. I believe our superpower, Rocketwerkz' superpower, is we're not Bethesda in that. We can actually go in and directly let our devs talk with our customers in Discord, or, you know, content creators and that kind of stuff, in a much more freer way than if we had a big publisher. So we plan to use that heaps, and I think the game needs players to test it and then tear holes in it and say it's moving too fast, it's doing this, it's doing that. So yeah, you know, I think that for us, even after release, we're going to be working a lot with the community to say, what does the game need? What's the extra content we add? And we've really spent a lot of time, probably over invested in technology. So if we want to push balance changes to the game, we don't actually need to push a patch to the game. There you go. Numpad Plus is wave behind you.
Behind. Oh, hey. Oh, cool.
Rock and Stone. I've been playing a bit of Deep Rock, not for a while, but
yeah. One thing I actually wanted to double back on. You always I noticed you bring up Valheim a lot. Has Valheim's Success kind of validated the idea to go co-op this time around, and not that open world kind of multiplayer PvP?
We'd already definitely decided co-op. I really wanted to explore co-op, because to make a good PvP game, you have to massively deal with hacking.
Yeah.
And so we're going to need, that's part of what this is to say, okay, how do we deal with hacking and stuff like that? I will interrupt us. A storm is coming in, so I'm going to build us, if you could chop down as much wood as you can.
Okay.
And we'll build a, is that you dropping
Yeah,
wood?
that's all my wood there.
Got it. I'll place down a base of something, and if you want to make, as well as you chop more woods, I'm just freaking out, because we've got to be able to survive this storm.
It also says my water is low as well.
If you just go to the water and push F, you should be good.
Oh, okay. So these ones have in your DLC, you have a water slot in the special edition suit. Is that something to do with this?
I mean, it is. Honestly, that doesn't help a lot.
Okay.
But you know, it's kind of a small convenience thing. You'll see in a second. What am I doing here?
Wow. That storm rolls in quick.
Yeah. See if you can build a couple of wood walls.
Okay. Let's see here. Crafting.
You might have to unlock it.
Yeah. Where are the wood walls? Oh, wood beam, wood floor. Here we go. Wood, ooh. Yeah, I'm not that high level yet.
Got it. I've nearly got our stuff. If you, do you have enough points to get a, a repair hammer.
Let's see here. That is...
You can see it's starting to get destroyed here because we haven't built high tier enough for it.
Right. I don't have any points. Can I revert points or no? They're permanent, right?
No. We've been talking about doing that. What I'll do is I've actually got enough points. I'll make us a repair hammer, so
Okay.
I'll drop one on the ground.
Cool.
Hopefully that gets. Whoops! What have I done?
Oh yeah. Wow. Okay. It's like tearing holes in it.
So there should be a thing here.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Now we are iterating on this repair mechanic. We haven't quite figured it out yet. We might have it use some stamina, stuff like that. And honestly, it probably wouldn't damage us too much. This is just a medium rainstorm, but you can see if we go outside, if you stand outside for a bit, you'll start taking shelter damage.
Okay.
This isn't too bad a storm. At least there's not thunder and lightning.
Now
We're in the safest biome at the moment.
It's saying my oxygen is low. Is there something I can do to fix that?
Yeah, so look, if you come over here, you'll look for blue rocks on the ground or a blue voxel.
Right.
Let's see if we can find one around. Oxide.
Wow, these weather effects are nuts.
Yeah, oh, you wait till you get a lightning storm.
Yeah, well,
So,
I saw that on that one live stream. You guys had it hit a tree and started on fire. I was like, oh, this is beautiful.
yeah, and actually we've done some more iteration on. Oh, it's blowing trees down around us.
Yeah. Oh God.
Oh, okay. This is a bit more. Oh, we need to get inside.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going. I think I'm going.
Oh, I'm getting. Oh my God, a tree just fell on me. Okay, a lot of trees are falling over. Ah, I might die. Okay, this is a bit scary. I am.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna repair this.
You're alive.
I got back to the station. Or the.
Oh my God, I am.
That's crazy. There you are.
Oh. I literally hit like a sliver.
Okay, so I grabbed those oxite. So now I have to.
You can either use them by right-clicking on them, or you can drag them into your oxygen slot.
Okay, got you. Consume. Okay, right click.
Honestly, I often prefer to manage it myself, but for some people, the slots are handy.
Sure. Well, at least you
And
give everyone the option, right?
And you can basically one of the first meta items, the first exotic items that you can sort of spend to get is better envirosuits, but you can only do that while you're in orbit.
Okay.
So you'll see in the top right, there's basically this Frostpunk style, like storm progress indicator that gives you an idea of where the storm's at. And stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, I must stress we are iterating on the repair mechanic.
Sure.
We're going to think about ideas to. We want storms to be dangerous, but we don't want it to feel like you're just walking around whacking stuff.
Right. Now, what I will say, I'm noticing sometimes like the durability will drop a little bit, and then is it supposed to disappear completely, like the walls and stuff?
Oh, if we let it get, are they disappearing?
Yeah.
When it drops a little bit.
Yeah, only when it drops a little bit.
I noticed the same bug as well. We were discussing that last night.
Okay. Cool.
I think some of that's just sort of client sync stuff.
Sure.
Okay, so the worst of the storms passed.
Awesome.
I would encourage you to build a little cabin somewhere.
Okay.
You can get a lot more creative than this. So when you're building, I guess if you just go around and mine a bunch of stuff, you'll level up a bit.
Yeah.
We could jump straight to stone. I haven't played a lot other than with internal people with someone who's quite good at these kind of games, so I'm kind of excited about this, so I want us to get sort of ambitious. Maybe should we build a crate and put some of our supplies in the crate while we level up?
Yeah, we can do that. I think I can build one of those. I think I chose that. Let's see.
I've made one crate inside, but definitely build more and put more in. And I reckon we just
Oh, how do you rotate?
You have to place it down and then rotate. I do actually want us to be able to rotate before placing it down. We kind of
Yeah.
copied Ark with that. That maybe wasn't the best place to start from.
Okay, let me make
We've tried to be really disciplined about adding new stuff. So what we do is we schedule quality of life passes, because the problem is if we're constantly changing things, it's how you introduce heaps of bugs.
Right.
So we try to do a wave and say, right, we're going to do a week of quality of life stuff, and then, you know, not sort of touch that system for another 3 weeks, so that the, you know, programmers and everyone have time to test. And because I think survival games have just been notorious for jank.
Oh yeah, I just ran into a bug. I can't get my my mouse. I have to like hold my right click to actually move around now.
Seriously?
Yeah.
People have been getting that a lot. You've got that again.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would if you just go back to the menu and then sorry, not the menu, the character select, and then come back in, you should drop straight in.
Okay, so I can do that. Got you.
Yeah, you can do that. I'm just going to go off comms for a sec because I just want to check that. Because we were told that was fixed.
Yeah, I noticed it when I actually went and interacted with the inventory. I hit escape instead of return at the bottom.
Is it escape?
Yep.
Oh yeah. Try clicking tab.
Yep.
Instead of escape.
Yep.
Okay. I'll double check that one afterwards. I when I was playing with the journalist, I couldn't figure out the repro. I could totally loot your body right now. I'm not going to though. I'm not going to.
So if I return and come back, that character down there is dead, and then I'm dropping in as kind of like a new body.
No, definitely not. So this is, I suppose, and we've done a really bad job of explaining this. We've invested a lot in technology. We wanted it to feel seamless. Even if both of us leave this session, it carries on because our central server records the state of everything.
Gotcha.
And in fact, you are part of this drop, so you can carry on the drop even when I'm not there.
Okay.
You just become the host of it. So we've tried to make the whole thing as seamless as possible.
So I've actually died in the sky again now, so I'm unconscious. So I think I'll have to respawn and find you now.
No, actually, just give me 1 second.
Sure.
Because I think if I do... No. Okay. Yeah, so unfortunately, I think that's a bug. Just give it a second. Does it say you're actually dead?
It says unconscious, waiting for a teammate to revive.
Okay, that's not good.
I can spectate you.
It was better. Yeah, that's suboptimal. Try respawn.
Okay.
Yeah, I might tell the guys that this is actually a worse build than the one we were playing yesterday. If you just respawn, see if you can find your way back to where I am.
Sure.
And I will just quickly talk.
Okay, I actually, it says loading now, and I'm just kind of stuck in a loop here. There we go. Continue. Oh, that was weird. Okay, I think I need to just Control-Alt-Delete here. Just kill the process. So oh, okay, what's going on here now? Okay, there we go. So let's try to respawn now. Okay, I see the mountain. I think that's the one you said you were going to spawn on.
Sorry about that. I'm back.
No, it's fine. So, okay, I'm dropping in now. I notice I'm still level 5, so we keep our levels.
Oh, you keep your levels,
Okay,
definitely. Yeah.
got you.
I went and talked to the dev team, so they're going to look at how complicated it would be to roll back the build, just because that's very frustrating.
Right.
Just try and remember for the moment to use tab to quit out of
Yeah.
the menu rather than escape, and we should be fine.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to head back up to you. What's the best route here? Okay, yeah.
Oh yeah, it looks like you dropped close to where you did last time.
A little bit of a jaunt, but I'll make it there.
I apologize for that.
No,
It's
it's
just
fine.
we've been making changes to improve the seamlessness, but obviously it's unfortunately timed that basically we sent a message out to the team yesterday saying our stability fixes might make the game more unstable for the next until basically Friday, which is funny. But we basically moved all our systems to production, so we sort of discovered some things with how our central server works that we wanted to change a bit.
Okay.
But yeah, essentially the idea is that it should be really seamless. Even if the host quits or whatever, the game will migrate, and we store all the data centrally. So that means that anyone can resume it. And you know, so you don't have to keep playing the session. You can sort of come back to it all the time.
So, the idea of extracting and you know the whole risk of being able to like lose your character, if we keep our levels, like how does all of that work now?
We're going to sort of, I don't know whether we'll have a one size fits all difficulty.
Okay.
I think one thing we're toying with is some drops, if you missed your time, you wouldn't outright lose the character. I think about it like this. Say you're dropping into a equatorial like drop. So one that's easily accessible to the stations that are in orbit. Even if you miss your drop time, your rendezvous time, you can still get back, but you'll lose maybe your equipment or your progress or something like that. And what's the... I'm on beta. Icarus beta. Oh right, okay.
Ooh, interesting.
Well, why is that dying bug there? Sorry, I'm just talking about producer.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, so what was I saying? Oh yeah, so basically depending on difficulty levels, we're looking to have it that basically at the higher difficulty level, when you miss your rendezvous time, you will outright lose your character. And so that character would be gone.
Okay.
Like reviving or respawning in a drop is not catastrophic. And that's deliberate, because with some survival games, I feel like you just die for all sorts of ridiculous reasons and you don't know about them. We felt it was okay to have a very punishing failure state as long as you were very clear about that right from the start.
Right. I am noticing now, I think I got that same bug with the swinging. I'm starting to see kind of like inside my helmet. It's kind of glitching out there a little bit now.
If you just tap C twice.
C twice.
That'll fix it.
Okay.
I had the same thing, because that puts you into external view.
Okay. It's still doing it for me for some reason. That's weird. Okay.
So when you push C, you went into external view?
Yeah, pulled it into third and then back, and then it's still, it's kind of like my guy's head is swinging past. It's like the camera's not quite inside the helmet for some reason.
Got it.
Strange.
Maybe try pushing C, then push tab, and then push tab again.
Yeah, let's try that. No, I can't seem to fix that.
That's really annoying.
But that's all right. That's why we're in beta, yeah?
Well, yeah, it's just frustrating, because I feel like our build that we played, I'm trying to even remember whether that was our public test. No, I played with a journalist yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before? I swear I lose track of the days. And it was actually pretty good. We did have that right-click bug. That was about the only severe bug that we had. And it was reasonably easy to get around. I just didn't realize it was because of the escape. I think that's the problem when you have multiple things
Yep.
mapped to multiple stuff. So someone's obviously captured tab, right, but hasn't captured the escape situation.
Yeah, I noticed that. I can't remember what I was kind of tinkering around in the main menu earlier, and for some reason, my go-to every time I'm in a menu is to hit escape. That's always my just.
Yeah.
But I noticed you guys have a little return button, so sometimes escape doesn't do it. I just got to remember tab or if there's a button.
I've been doing the same in my little, I get a little project that I'm allowed to work on in my time. It's called Art of the Rail. It's a little multiplayer remake of Transport Tycoon.
Yeah.
And I made sure to map it. You can remap it, but I have one button to rule them all to close windows. Oh, I'm over encumbered. Oh, that's a bad idea.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make my way over to you.
But yeah, I don't want us to then ruin the experience too much. We can do another playtest with a better build, but you can certainly, maybe now's a good time to ask a lot of questions.
Sure. So somebody actually had asked today, because I kind of put a post out asking for kind of community questions. Somebody had mentioned that you guys were talking about kind of special drops and special kind of weekly events. Could you kind of give some insight of what we could expect for stuff like that?
Yeah, so, you know, a number of our staff come from Grinder Gear Games, who made Path of Exile, so they've obviously got a lot of excellent experience with that kind of thing. And so once we've got the whole exotics things running, that we might be able to make, for example, a special prospect available that gives you special access to, you know, timed resources that are only available during this time and stuff like that. So I've seen a few games do that really well. You know, I play a lot of World of Warships, and they've had a few cool events where you can only get, you know, certain things during the event and stuff like that. So I think that's how we want to focus it. Think about it, the sort of government that's controlling access to the prospects. They'll open up some of them for, you know, a small period of time and stuff like that. And we can actually even use that for development purposes as well. Maybe we want to test out a new animal, or we want to test out new biomes. We can open those up for a temporary period of time. This is all a huge advantage of being session-based. We can sort of expose... Oh, I just threw something on the ground. We can expose parts of the game temporarily without breaking the rest of your game.
Right.
If you think in Valheim, if they wanted to try something out, they have to introduce it to your game, and that could get very frustrating.
Okay. No, that makes sense. It's smart. Just almost close to you here, and then I got some attribute points to set up.
Did you have any other good community questions?
So yeah, obviously a lot of people were asking about the change from free to play to buy to play, and one of my questions I actually had kind of prepared was kind of what went into it, and why did that happen so close to launch? You don't usually see that often.
Yeah, so originally when we started the project, I really wanted to do free-to-play. The reason being, I really wanted a lot of people to play the game. And I wanted a lot of people to play it, and I wanted it to be really well received. I just, again, I think of Path of Exile as just a great game that I feel like free-to-play works very well for it. Hello? And so that was the vision. To deliver on a free-to-play game, this is an expensive game to make. To deliver on a free-to-play game, we would have to run at a loss for years, and a very heavy one.
Sure.
So we planned on basically working with a big publisher to get in their experience and all those kinds of things. But we just didn't find a publisher that we felt really got it, and didn't come with a lot of restrictions that we didn't like. And so we sat down and started going through, okay, how would we do free to play? And when we started looking at it, we thought simultaneously, we don't know enough about running about this product and running a free to play game. And we didn't want to make the mistake that games like Evolve and that have done by picking a payment model that just ruined the game. And I think regardless of if you make a mistake, I think you just own up to the mistake and correct it. So that was what we felt. We were like, let's just reset and just come clean and say, hey, we don't think we can make this work with this payment model. Let's stick with something more traditional.
Gotcha.
Even if we copped a bit of flat from it.
Sure. Yeah, it seems like you guys take the criticism with stride, and it seems like you guys are very open to those discussions, which I actually do respect.
Well, we're going to make mistakes,
Sure.
and the only way around that really is to take them on board. We can sleep through the night if you want.
Yeah, sure. I was actually just trying to figure out where my beam crafting was. I just need more wood. But oh, nice campfire.
There's some wood inside these containers here.
Perfect.
At the moment, there's no like transition between night and day when you sleep.
Okay.
It's instant, but just use your imagination.
Sure. Oh, you know what? It did it to me again. Interesting. So I hit tab. Okay, let me try to recreate this here. So I hit tab. That's what it is. Okay.
What's that?
So when you're in the container and you're looking at your inventory, when I hit tab, it opens up my crafting menu, like the tech tree menu, and then it double layers them. And then when I hit tab again, it almost works like an alt tab, but my mouse can't come back on screen.
What I'd like to do, because this is what the way I test games, is if I encounter anything crappy like that's going to destroy my experience,
Sure.
I actually stop playing. Because like I say, I try and ration my gameplay, because otherwise you lose all objectivity about what is fun about your game.
Sure.
You've probably got enough sort of B-roll footage.
Yeah.
Did you want to just focus on questions now? And I'd really like to do a play session together when it's not broken.
Sure. Yeah, I'm definitely down for that.
So if we just, I'll just back out because I don't want to lose this character.
Yeah, I'll just return to the character select here.
And I'll let you know when we've got a build that's better, because we had a better build yesterday.
For sure.
And that's good, because that'll mean I can better focus.
For sure.
On the questions too.
Yeah. So.
And like I say, please feel free to ask difficult questions. On that as well.
Yeah. I was kind of saving those a little bit because I kind of wanted to jump into the game and just kind of gauge
Definitely.
where the build is at. But so one thing I did want to ask, actually, we were talking about Valheim and stuff like that. I noticed you also mentioned Ark. What are some problem areas with those kind of games that you think Icarus is solving, or at least trying to solve?
I'll navigate this one carefully, because obviously, privately, I think a really important skill as a game dev, and I think it's the same for content creators, is the ability to not only be critical about your own stuff, but be critical about other people's, to see if you can learn and move on. I would say that if you look at something like Valheim, what it does really well, and actually I've been missing it and I want to go back in and play it, is they take this because they generate the world procedurally, it feels huge and it feels limitless. But part of the problem with procedural generation is it can mean that when you visited one forest biome, you kind of feel like you visited them all.
Mm-hmm.
And that was definitely what I experienced a bit with No Man's Sky. And so what we wanted to do was try something a bit different. So we actually went out and we handcraft each of our maps. This one's called Olympus. We're working on another one at the moment called Styx. And, they're 8 by 8 kilometers handcrafted. We use a lot of tools to help us deliver them. And there is procedural elements to them. But I would say one of our compelling differences is that we want to deliver that Skyrim-like feel of a crafted experience that even though we have, say, for each of the map, we'll often have multiple forest biomes, they can be very different. And you very much see that with Olympus, the map that we were playing there. There's 2 desert biomes, but they're completely different, even though they're desert biomes. So I think that, and answer to your question there, one of the key things we wanted to do was deliver a really biomes that had heart and maps that had heart and feeling that was different from procedural. Not that procedural's necessarily bad, but that was basically something that we felt we could do to set us apart.
Cool.
On the other side of that as well, by breaking the game into sessions, I believe it allows us to add content to the game without breaking the balance. So if you have something like Ark, if they want to add content to your game, they have to kind of mash it on top of everything, and that's how you end up with like dinosaurs with lasers on them and stuff.
Right.
And that you end up with what I'll call tech inflation in your survival game. By having this gate, which is this drop you take down onto the ship, you can be like Elon Musk level rich in orbit and collect all these awesome toys, but you still have to decide what toys you take down with you. That simultaneously maintains that sort of kleptomaniac Pokemon style, got to get them all, want to research all these things, which is good, right? That's a good game mechanic because it means you're always wanting to find the new weapon or unlock this engine for your vehicle or a new class of vehicle or something, but you're still limited with the tools that you can take with you at the time. And I feel like that's an important solution that we can try to survival game sort of tech inflation, where and that can become a really insidious problem as well, because not only can it sort of make the early game feel less important and less fun, it actually can be a really bad experience for new players as well, because most people in Ark never get to the higher tiers.
Right.
So they can just get, stomped or just feel lost when they come in. And I believe that that's something we're going to be able to solve a bit by breaking it into sessions.
Yeah, no, that's
good luck editing that one.
I was gonna
concise response.
No, honestly,
I'll try and be more pithy.
Honestly, man, this is one thing that I wanted to use my channel for, was to allow game developers and guys like you to really kind of discuss this kind of stuff in a more, I would say, casual way. I love hearing this kind of insight. This is great.
Well, that's why I really like your channel and the others like it, and I would say I probably spend 2 or 3 hours a day as I'm sort of walking around listening to those kind of channels, because I think as developers we never experience our games like our customers do,
right?
In both a positive and negative way, and that's why I'm being really careful with Icarus to ration my experience, and that's why I don't want you to play it. If I play it and I encounter a big bug, I stop playing it, because I need to preserve the feeling of it working. Because if we don't believe and understand what our product is, how are our customers going to?
Right.
That is, those bugs that you had are not bugs that people can have. If they do, they are not going to even understand the experience, let alone enjoy it.
Right. No, that's that's pretty good mindset to be in. Now, okay, so looking around the community, hearing the discussions around Icarus, you guys announced the Deluxe Edition. I wanted to talk a little bit about that. It's been getting some heat, been getting some controversy around it. I wanted to kind of get an insight as to what we're going to be seeing with the 2 DLCs. We kind of touched on it a little bit, but can you give any insight to what you guys have planned for those?
I'll say for a start, the Deluxe Edition thing was a great idea, poorly implemented.
Sure.
And the mistake of that was entirely mine. There's a pattern developing here, right? And actually, I have to admit, I was warned about this. Valve have been just awesome to work with, really helpful. And Valve not warned me, but they did sort of say this is a bit different. The mistake, I think, was what I described it as. I think it should be described in, I'm interested in your thoughts and the communities on this, but I'm thinking of proposing we rename it to the Supporters Edition and make it clear that there are going to be other more boring-y ways like season passes or whatever later on, but essentially we had a lot of people who are very passionate in the project. We don't have a publisher. We don't really believe that pre-orders are a good idea, but we did understand that they really help us gauge interest and stuff like that. So we understood that they were useful for us. So that was why we were like, okay, we don't want to make this too complicated. Let's just do a standard edition that's way cheaper than the supporters edition.
Right.
Well, that's what I think of it as in my head. I think if we'd called it a supporters edition,
Yeah.
I don't think there would have been anywhere near as much confusion. And that is entirely my fault. And I was actually warned about this. And I think this is an example of getting that blinkered thinking on. The pressure was on. I was very focused on performance and stuff like that. I think my intention was good. It was just a confusing execution.
For sure.
Same with the confusion around outposts, which you pointed out, PC Gamer pointed out very correctly that it was confusing messaging because it made it sound like you only got the outposts with the Deluxe edition.
Right.
And I think if we'd had a publisher, they would have helped us navigate these things. So it really is my fault with that stuff. But that's where, by having a good relationship with the community, they will be able to highlight these things. We just need to be able to make sure we address them quickly and don't make those mistakes again.
Right.
Make a bunch of new mistakes. and so that's why the inoculation to this is by being open with the community, being prepared to take that feedback on and make changes.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people were focusing on the fact like the Deluxe edition was, hold on, let me actually scroll up here. So the Deluxe edition for me in Canada is $102. So what we were wondering was with these 2 DLCs, they obviously have kind of a price point in mind. Like it was a lot of confusion for sure. And that's why I kind of wanted to get some clarification on it. Do you guys have an idea for what these DLCs would cost for a base edition player, somebody who just bought the regular version of the game?
We do. So obviously we've done a lot of planning internally. I would say they're heavily subject to change.
Sure.
And that's why I think, we should rename that Deluxe Edition to a Supporters Edition.
I agree with that, actually.
Yeah. And make it clear to people, hey, we're going to be adding to this over time. Now, I actually explained this to someone on the forums, the Steam forums, who was concerned about it last night, and he started saying, oh, now I feel like I'm missing out. Maybe I should go buy it. And I need to go back and reply to him and say, no, don't do that. Like, that's actually making me feel nervous.
Right.
The Supporters Edition is for those people who are really invested in the project, who want to help us a little bit and make us feel good. I don't want people to go out and pre-order the game unless they are 100% convinced. And the other thing is, when you pre-order the game, you can refund it at any time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I do kind of like about the pre-orders on Steam. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, that we give our pre-order customers access to the beta. They can play it for as long as they want.
Sure.
And refund, no questions asked.
Right.
That's actually way better than early access. If you get an early access game, and you play it for 2 hours, you can't refund it.
Right.
So I like this idea of giving customers access to the beta and pre-order, because they could play it for 10 hours, 20 hours or whatever and go, you know what, this just isn't for me, and get all of their money back.
Right.
But I think that you and others have correctly identified there's messaging problems there. I haven't wanted to go back and change that just instantly, so we're actually internally having a think about how do we describe what that supporters edition is. How do we make it clearer to people that, hey, we're going to be adding to this over time. There will be other mechanisms to either buy the DLC individually or buy it as part of whatever customers want. Do they want season passes and stuff like that? I think, like I say, my intention initially was, I was like, I want to make this simple. I've been playing a lot of Anno 1800. When I try and get my friends to come in to buy it, it's so complicated.
Yeah.
There's like 3 season passes, there's all this. We wanted to avoid that and just give initially 2 simple options.
Sure.
And I felt like, realistically, people should just not pre-order it at all. Like, there's no real reason to pre-order it. But if they want to, I'm really glad they did, because whenever I've released a game, there's this terrifying moment when I think no one's ever going to buy it. And I know that's irrational, because someone will always buy your game. But seriously, when DayZ Standalone launched, I had an almost panic attack that no one was going to buy the game. Same with Stationeers. And this is the first time I've launched a game when I haven't had that, because we've had pre-orders.
Right. So this is the first product that you've actually put out with a pre-order then?
Yes.
Interesting. Huh.
Which is probably why I sort of, and like I say, the problems are mine alone. People on the team, Valve, did raise some confusion around the deluxe edition.
Yeah.
And I suppose I often make decisions on how I work as a consumer. So I think about the game that I pre-ordered, which was Hearts of Iron 4. And, you know, I love that game, and I bought their biggest edition because I like Paradox for I like their games. And I've been very, happy with my purchase because I got all the DLC, and I was going to buy them anyway, so I was like, I don't mind. But I suppose they didn't call it like a deluxe edition or whatever. They called it like the general edition, or the kernel edition or whatever.
Right.
And I think the problem was I just took the deluxe edition idea, but deluxe editions traditionally maybe $10 or $20
Right.
more, and maybe have a soundtrack. So I think this is just a great example of, I mean, honestly, if we're going to stumble into problems, I'd rather us stumble into easily solvable problems like this rather than the game doesn't work.
Sure.
Or it's never going to have good performance and stuff like
Right.
that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest concerns from a lot of people is just how, DayZ standalone was in early access for how long. And then even looking at Rocketwerkz, I've seen a lot of conversations around Stationeers. You've kind of addressed that already. Can people who bought Stationeers expect that game to eventually release with so many different projects kind of on the go at Rocketwerkz?
Definitely. So Stationeers is perhaps a great example. So actually coming out in the next, I think coming out on the 19th is our next update for Stationeers. And we're actually finally going back and doing a big refactor. And a lot of what's changing in Stationeers is actually flowing in from my personal discovery with Art of the Rail. And Art of the Rail was really a chance. They're obviously, those games are developed on a completely different engine from Icarus. Sure. By a completely different team, but there's a lot of cross sharing between the teams, which is kind of awesome, because that means that a lesson that I learned, say with Art of the Rail, we can actually port back to Stationeers. And if they were separate teams, like from separate companies, we wouldn't really be able to do that. So I actually think that there's a net positive result from us having access to, some incredible programmers that we could only really afford on a project like Icarus. Also being able to provide technical oversight for a game like Stationeers. And actually, if you look at the concurrence for Stationeers, they have been breaking any kind of, I suppose, how things would normally work, for video games. So normally you have your best time on launch. What actually happened with Stationeers is Stationeers, really died down in early on and like its history in July, and then it actually had its best peak in March of this year. And that was when we were doing some really meaty updates. So I think Stationeers is a great example of continually investing in the product and just delivering consistent good patches. I'm pretty excited about this next update because it's our first big refactor for multiplayer and rendering, which basically allows us to focus on some of the things the community have most been concerned about.
Well, I think also, and I see this all the time in this industry too, especially with indie devs, when you have a sizable studio working on multiple products, I think the messaging gets lost also. People automatically assume that the same people who were working on Icarus are working on Stationeers, are working on Art of the Rail, and they just assume that all of those resources are spread so thin across so many different projects, but you did mention it's completely different teams working on them.
Completely different engines and languages.
Right.
So most of the team working on Stationeers simply couldn't work on Icarus. They're entirely different, engines, and so Stationeers and Art of the Rail is made with Unity, whereas Icarus is made with Unreal. So they're very, very different, with requiring people of very different skill sets. And while I'm sure, obviously, the people could, in many cases, a good and talented programmer, say, could switch between them.
Sure.
In many cases, the people we've hired said, I don't want to work on Unreal, or I don't want to work on Unity. So we simply can't take an Icarus dev and say, cool, you're working on Stationeers today, because they might have joined saying, I want to work on Unreal. That's what my experience is with, and that's what I want to do. But we do encourage that kind of peer review. So our tech director, Ben Carnell, who I said literally wrote a book on Unreal Engine game development, he's been providing awesome technical oversight for Stationeers, and we just appointed a new lead on Stationeers, Simon, who was actually a former staff member who actually came back, which has been really awesome. And like I say, I want to work on Stationeers and Art of the Rail for the next 10 years. My biggest fear with Stationeers eventually going 1.0 is people thinking that's the end. For me, it's not at all. I mean, I was working on Stationeers when it was Ion. So Stationeers is what was originally going to be Ion. And, the technology just didn't work, so we rebooted it. So I've been working on Stationeers for like 4 years before it was even Stationeers.
That's interesting. I actually had a comment today. Somebody had told me to ask you whatever happened to Ion, and I didn't actually know what he was referencing. So that's interesting.
Yeah, that's a long story, a long, sad story. But yeah, look, I think, and actually, on that, I think it's sort of tangentially, it just made me realize Stationeers is also an example of me making mistakes too.
Sure.
So early on in Stationeers development, we had this crazy control scheme, which comes from Space Station 13, which I'm very passionate about. And I was watching a really interesting GDC talk on this. I still maintain that Stationeers, I didn't want to make Stationeers if I was just going to be remaking Minecraft or Imperium or something. I wanted to do something different. Why go in and make a game that someone else has made?
Right.
Like, why do that? That's just, to me, that's just pointless. Unfortunately, that means for all my games, I'm going to be trying something new, and sometimes that just doesn't work. Anyway, we did go back and we redid the control scheme, but I really do try and make it clear to people. Stationeers is delivered as this idea of having to balance your two hands, and that's always going, for some people, they're just not going to want that. And the game is just not for them. So I think we try and be very clear about that. But I think for some people, Stationeers is the game they want, and I think you see that the game is reviewed extremely well consistently, despite being a very niche game, and I'm really proud of it, actually, but I'm more proud of what we're going to be able to do over the next few months.
It's actually kind of crazy. Like I heard of Rocketwerkz shortly after the DayZ situation, and then I didn't actually know about Stationeers. I didn't know about Art of the Rail. I didn't know you guys had made some VR games in the past as well. It kind of actually caught me by surprise. I thought Icarus was kind of like the first little forte. At least it was the first one that was on my radar. When you left, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was going to just address that. That's actually quite deliberate. So a number of people say, hey, why aren't you promoting Stationeers more? And I would say it's not ready. I am so glad that Stationeers went into early access, because we got this fantastic feedback. And our community, our Discord is incredible. There's about 12 members of the Discord that we actually have a private channel with, where we actually share even our code and stuff like, and they share code back as well. If we'd waited until the game was done, we would have made a whole bunch of decisions that we couldn't reverse.
Right.
So that's awesome. And once Stationeers has tidied up its performance, once it's tidied up its multiplayer stability, then we will start promoting it. Then, we'll go out and we'll pay some content creators to look at it. We'll do some advertising, but I think advertising it when it's at the state it's at now is just not a good idea.
Right.
But I'm really proud of what we've done, and I think from these, this is the first time now with this patch that we're looking at a really big, I suppose, refactor, where we go back and say, okay, the networking is broken. Well, not broken, that's probably a bit mean. There's a lot of scenarios where the networking doesn't work. Maybe someone's got a not perfect router setup, or their base is really huge. So we're finally able to go back and look at that, mainly because I sat down with Art of the Rail, started again, and said, right, what does Unity do well? How can I work around that? And then I was able to take those lessons and say, okay, guys, looking at Stationeers, we can do X, Y, Z.
Okay. Yeah, it's like I said, it was just kind of crazy just seeing so many different projects coming out, so completely different too, which I actually really like as well. I looked.
I'd love you to look at Art of the Rail, actually.
Like I have it open on another monitor here, and like I said, just completely different from Icarus.
I'm gonna send you a key.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
If you've never played OpenTDD though, there's no tutorial at the moment.
Okay.
But I can send you a save file that's got the stuff in it.
Cool.
That's really been a good kind of test bed for me. Where are we? Yeah, and I think that's for me, it's a really important part of learning. So I don't work directly on Icarus. It's actually the first project I've never actually coded or made art for. If I want to get a change to the project, I actually have to talk with people and go out and work with people, and we have 70 people working on it, and that was really important. I think one big mistake I did with DayZ was I coded a lot on it myself, and that allows you to sort of lock yourself in a room and lose all perspective. Whereas with Icarus, I've really stood back and tried to make decisions at the right time, identify what the wrong decisions are, tell people that those are the wrong decisions and that we're going to change and that kind of stuff. But I still like having this outlet of being able to code and develop and learn stuff myself, and that's what Art of the Rail has been. So I've sent you a key on Discord.
Oh, cool. Perfect. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you. I'll definitely be checking that out. Let's see here. Copy. Okay, I'll just put that into a notepad. Awesome. I had a couple more questions I kind of wanted to get into. I really feel like the biggest messaging, at least when I cover Icarus or talk about it, is obviously your past with DayZ. We've talked about it a lot. One thing I did want to ask, back in 2014, I actually remember reading the articles. You were quoted, you said, at some point, I'll be a disaster for the project, at least in a leadership role. I was kind of curious, and now just talking about all these different projects, how has that transition come from, like you said, working at Bohemia to now running this studio with multiple projects? What have you learned, and do you feel more comfortable being in that leadership role now as opposed to back then?
Definitely. So there's several things to unpack with it. I think I recognize, because I'd worked in the industry previously, people sort of don't realize DayZ wasn't the first thing I'd worked on. I was actually working on Arma 3 at the time, full-time, as a designer.
Yep.
And I had previously been a producer at, it was called She Interactive then, SIDHE, but now it's called POC. But we were working on a PlayStation 2 game, which I was the producer for.
Okay.
So I suppose I knew enough to know that I didn't know enough.
Right.
And I recognized that with DayZ. I was like, this is my chance to get some money to form a studio. But working at Bohemia was like cooking in someone else's kitchen. It wasn't that there was necessarily something wrong with them, but you can start pushing them in a direction that they're not comfortable, and they're pushing you in a direction that you're not comfortable. And as much as I enjoyed it, I recognized that I needed to go out and learn the things I didn't know. I was ridiculously lucky. And I saw Evan Lardy from PC Gamer just yesterday had posted about, which is the most influential mod of all time, and he listed 4, of which one was DayZ.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find out. And I remember having explained to me, it's, if you look at Dota and all those other ones, Counter-Strike and that, it was never really one person who got all of the reward, I suppose. So if you look at that, I am a astronomically lucky person that I got to sit in a room and basically get paid get bought off me something that I made. So I've tried not to throw that away, but I really knew after DayZ I needed to go back and I needed to learn. That was why we made a little VR game called Out of Ammo. I learned about getting it produced and put out, and it reviewed well, and it came out of early access, and people liked it. And we just learned a lot of simple things from that. Even though I'd worked in the video game industry previously, I knew that I needed to graduate as a leader and to lead a studio. And then we progressed on to Stationeers and stuff like that. So that was the big thing that I had to do to address DayZ. I'd learned a lot from DayZ, but I also needed to. I knew there was some stuff that I had to work on, and I believe I have, and I'm still making obviously mistakes, and
Sure.
I'll be making mistakes until I die. But it's about figuring out, okay, how can I mitigate those? One of the big things that we can do, not having a publisher, is it means that we can have a direct connection with the community, with creators like yourself, and we can have honest conversations about things that we've done well or not done well. So I think the messaging around the Deluxe edition is a classic example. It's not a terminal problem to have, and I think even in so your video about Icarus, you're like, hey, this is interesting, I'm interested in it. I've got some concerns here, and so that's where I think sort of a long-winded way of answering your question.
No, that was great. One kind of follow-up from that, because I know you're a busy guy. What do you consider, if somebody says Icarus is a success, like what is a successful Icarus to you? What does that mean to you, if that makes sense? When this game comes out, what is that one thing that will say, yes, that game was a success in my eyes?
Audience reception.
Yeah.
100%. I don't really care how much money it makes. I'd like us to make back what we spent on it,
Sure.
so that there's awesome people here,
Right.
and I want to keep working with
Sure.
them. But I really don't care about that anywhere near as much as people enjoying it. That's why I don't want you to play it when it's a bit broken.
Right.
And it's dumb little things. It's not the performance or whatever stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
like the menu getting stuck. It's
No,
an easy thing to fix. So I don't want to. But that I want people to play it and enjoy it. It doesn't have to change their lives. It doesn't have to be the greatest game of all time.
Sure.
But I want people to play that and go, you know what, that was a really good game and I enjoyed it.
Awesome. Yeah, I notice you talk a lot about community, and it's funny from my side of the fence, just kind of watching a lot of criticism be thrown your way, but the one thing that you care about most is that people enjoy the products that you're putting out.
It's funny because there's a lot less criticism than there used to be. There's feedback, but I think that actually I found that the DayZ thing's gone full circle, and actually most of what I hear now is quite positive things. And I think people understand the nuance of it a little bit more than
Sure.
they used to. And I think whatever criticism there is valid, and it tends to be phrased pretty well. Like the criticism over, maybe it's not even criticism, but the feedback over the Deluxe edition, I think, is valid.
Yeah.
But I also think that most people approach it from I think this is just an honest, messaging issue, rather than an outright, problem or a scam or something like that.
It's one of those things I feel like it's not dire enough to where they're canceling the project. They actually just want clarification. And I think that goes to show, like, these people actually want to play this game, and they just want to know that their money is going to be well spent, right? And that's
absolutely. Yeah. That's the coolest thing, right? And I love it when you release a game and people enjoy it. That's what I love about Stationeers. Like, I just love talking to people about the game and how excited people get when you make an update. So that's and that's why I can get very frustrated when there's things wrong with the game, because you want to go and fix them.
Sure. Well, I'll be honest. I have one more question. We kind of touched on it. Game launches. Now, I heard you guys say the 11th on a live stream. The Steam page for me says the 12th of August. Mm-hmm. Which one is it actually?
It's a good question. So that's a lot of obviously we work with Valve and a lot of stuff has to be set by Valve. It's surprising the amount of stuff that you actually have to work directly with Valve. They've been absolutely fantastic. So Gabe Newell is actually in our country and has actually come and visited us.
I saw him on one of your videos. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. So, Valve have been very supportive, and I mean just genuinely supportive, not out of any monetary thing, but, helping me learn about the Steam ecosystem and how to best use their SDKs and asking for feedback. Same with NVIDIA. Like, how lucky are we to have direct input and communication and be able to affect the trajectory of some of these awesome technologies? But yeah, I think that date is a little bit of confusion around time zones and that. What I would say is we have a obligation to the community to do realistic assessments about where the game is at, and then go back to the community with any changes or plans that we need to make around release.
Cool, perfect. Closed beta. Can we get an insight onto when that's happening?
Well, we actually have a very detailed plan for that. I think there's also an obligation for us to be sure about those plans before we tell people.
Sure.
So that was, I think, a mistake I made with DayZ. What I did was I was like, open communication. We should tell everybody everything. I think that it's a little bit more nuanced with that. It's okay to tell people, hey, we have a really good plan about this, but we want to be really sure before we tell you. So I would say we're very fortunate to be, one of the people who's actually helping us with this was someone deeply involved with Guild Wars 2 and some other games like that. And they've been, and Tarkov, and they've been providing us really good feedback on how do we test some of these game concepts out with our players in a way that doesn't exhaust the experience for them, as well as allow us to get some feedback, make the changes, and then get them to look at it again. Because I do think that's really important. If you look at some of the games that have come out, they've gone into beta, they've got feedback from people, but sometimes the people have got exhausted over those games in the beta. And it's really important that we don't do that.
That actually makes sense. Yeah, I'm one of those people who, if a beta goes on too long and I grind it because I'm excited for it, once the game comes out, I'm just like, okay, yeah, I've already done all this stuff.
It doesn't matter what you do. And so I know I've given you a bit of a non-answer there, but that's very deliberate. All I can say is that, in my opinion, I think we're developing a really good plan. I just want to make sure that before we go tell you that plan, that you're sure about it.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing we could do is tell you it and then change it.
Yeah.
And what that means is that, I suppose what I'm saying is, our 11, 12 August, that could change. But we won't sort of pull the rug out of the community under it. We will actually continue to talk with the community about that. But we will only go back to the community with concrete plans that we want feedback on.
Awesome. No, that sounds good. We've had plenty of conversations about developers being too open, and then dates change, and then people get more pissed off, and then it's just a whole mess. So no, I definitely do appreciate that answer.
Well, and I think I've learned being open is not just about saying anything. There's a responsibility that comes. We're the adults, right? We're the ones who know the state of the game. We know what's possible and what's not. Our consumers, our customers, our players, they'll always give us feedback, and we should always listen. But we have a responsibility to look at that and look at what is realistic, what's achievable. We should always be honest about the outcome. If you say to me, Dean, I think this system is really bad, if I know that we can't change that, I should go back to you and say, I hear what you're saying, I think you're right, but unfortunately, we can't do anything about the system, at least not now, or something like that. And that might make you mad, and you might go post a negative review, but you won't be wrong. You'll be right. And I think the adult thing to do is to be honest with people about the things that you can't change, because there will be some of those.
Sure.
Even we notice some of those. We're like, oh man, if we were doing this project again, we would change X. Yeah.
No, I definitely appreciate those answers. I appreciate your time. I'm really excited to play this game come launch, whenever that is. If it's August 12th, yeah, just made my summer. I've been waiting for this since that first trailer.
Well, Well, then I'd encourage you. Let's both wait. I will get back to you when we've got a good build.
Yes.
We'll lock that build into beta. Part of the problem is we only just set up this, separating out the beta from the base game,
Right.
So that we could give more people access to it. And unfortunately, that means we haven't got necessarily a good build on the beta branch yet, because the beta branch literally only went live yesterday.
Right.
But yeah, once we've got a good solid build that I'm happy with on there. I actually thought we were only going to talk, so that was why I was a little surprised.
Yeah, that was kind of my plan as well. And then I got a key sent to me. I'm like, okay, sure. Like, I'm looking forward to it. I'd love to jump in, but
I think our golden rule should be just like with me. We'll only play it when we've got a good build, so that we don't ruin the experience. Because I think I'd be very interested in doing a bit of a deep dive with you when we play the game on,
sure,
maybe we're look at some of the systems that aren't so good, and then you'll sort of see the evolution of them.
Yeah, no, I would definitely love that.
Oh, really? Thank you. Thanks for your time, and like I say, I hope you continue to be critical, because that's what the project needs for sure.
Awesome.
Don't ever take any of the. I'm happy, and I get it quite a lot. When people give me good feedback, and sometimes the feedback hurts, but it nearly always helps make a better game.
For sure. No, definitely. That's what we strive for here. I appreciate your time, Dean, and yeah, I can't wait for everybody to be playing this.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, you have a good night.
See ya.